Are you feeling isolated and disconnected? We're going to talk about the disassociation of the targeted individual. I've mentioned before that being a targeted individual is like riding a roller coaster. At first, targeted individuals get a lot of attention. Okay, they want them to be looking for different things. They want them to be sensitized. They want them to feel the pressure of directed conversations, of innuendos. They want them to get a good, healthy taste of the hive mind, of the collective that they are dealing with. However that works in your situation, however you want to process that, well, the targeted individual is going to get a big, wet, juicy bite of it. And they're going to be looking. They're going to feel the pressure. They're going to be, wondering if the conversations around them are about them. They've been attacked that way. They're going to wonder if someone uses a little cliche that's out there that, has been thrown at them in different circles when they've been attacked. If it's just people, just kind of parroting the things that are out there in society, or do these people know? Are they in on it? The inner circle of the targeted individual is infiltrated, and they don't know who they can trust, and everything that they have dealt with up to that point seems connected. It seems synchronized. And then all of a sudden it changes. I've talked about that before. And they can experience a type of deprivation, where at one point they're getting attacked. It's very obvious. It's very direct. It involves a lot of personal information. It's obvious. And then it becomes either passive or it disappears. It's part of that gaslighting process. But, when a targeted individual experiences that type of deprivation, it's like sensory deprivation, social deprivation. People need input. They need stimuli. They did that experiment in the MK Ultra where they would put people in those deprivation tanks. And I guess it was really, really bad because the brain needs input. And when it doesn't have it, you can get that, cyclical effect. And, the sound of silence can, as the old cliche, become very loud. And people can be driven to the point of insanity. They can start to lose it. Targeted individuals often talk about feeling like they're in a matrix or something like that. And, really, it's just waking up to where you are. It's just realizing that the world that you thought you lived in before is really, it's more connected and complex. And, actually, if you want to be positive, it's very interesting. Okay, a lot of people look at it negatively, but, when it comes down to it, you can put a positive spin on it. People like to watch, movies that have a very intense plot, that have, all kinds of exciting things involved in them, mysteries, conspiracies, and stuff like that. And when it really comes down to it, you are living in a place that is just like that. The thing that sucks is that a lot of people are blind to it, and you end up looking like, a freak. You look crazy. But getting back to the effects of deprivation. A lot of the effects are going to be unavoidable. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel lonely. You might be moody. But some of the effects that come out of deprivation, they can be more exotic, we'll call it, where people get that type of dissociation where they don't even feel like they're real anymore. They are wondering, if the people around them are real. They can, experience a lot of intense stimuli, and I've talked about that before, where it's dimensional. Okay, I've heard Zeph Daniels mention that before in some of his testimonies, where he would experience that type of attack, where the impossible would happen. I've experienced it. I think a lot of targeted individuals have dealt with that, where people are one way, the world is coming at you. It's just crazy, and then it just switches. People start acting normal again. It's like that movie Fallen, and that's part of the gaslighting, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that all the situations involved in that are dealing with people who are unaware of what's going on, and they are being manipulated from a spiritual dimension, and they never have any knowledge of it or whatever. I don't think we understand completely how that stuff works, but it can work that way. That's in the more exotic cases. That's in the more intense forms of harassment, where people are literally getting stuff wherever they go that might even seem clairvoyant. People are dealing with stuff that comes at them maybe from the occult or whatever, and it can be that way. And that type of disassociation, that type of stimuli, it can cause that. And you mix that in with with a type of isolation and a switch in the technique, and people really start to wonder if they're going crazy, right? And the worst part about it is, especially if your inner circle has been infiltrated, is that people, they just don't want to believe that the people around them could treat them that way, depending on what they're dealing with as far as the attacks. A lot of it is very cruel. Some of the street theater that people deal with is personal. It's aggressive, and when people pull that type of switch, I think it's easier for people to just pretend like it's not real, because then they don't have to deal with the pain. They don't have to deal with the reality of them being rejected or treated harshly by people that they care about. And I think it's easy for people to just say, "Oh, I must have imagined it, or I hallucinated, or I may have some type of mental condition, some type of schizophrenia or bipolar, Asperger's or something." Because you got to deal with it either way, right? It's not like these people are going to stop messing with you, and to minimize the damage, to minimize the emotional reaction that goes along with the abuse and the attacks that targeted individuals put up with. Sometimes they just give in to that, because it's just unacceptable to think that the world is really that crazy. And I think that's why a lot of the channels out there that deal with gangstalking don't talk about the spiritual aspect of this stuff. And it's understandable, because it's hidden. It's a mystery. It dwells in darkness. And things like directed energy weapons or government agencies, different programs the CIA might have or whatever, they're concrete. They're something that you can look at. They make sense. It's not something that is, sneaking up on you from another dimension that you have no idea that's there. And, the technological side of this stuff is, it's definitely something that has to be dealt with as well, because I think technology comes from the spirit realm. I think that it's just like, drugs or, covert poisons or anything else. Technology is a tool that is used to manipulate minds of, people who are victims of gangstalking, to control people, to drive them insane. I'm not knocking it, but it does have to be dealt with, and a lot of people will leave it alone, I think, because of that. A lot of frustration comes out of something that can't be understood, but it's something that has to be dealt with. Otherwise, you can't really put this stuff together logistically, and eventually you're going to get lost when you're trying to process the information, and you can also become hopeless. I've talked about that before, that if all this is just a bunch of, tyrannical groups of people who have far more resources than you, where's the hope in that? There isn't any. And you have to remember that these people, they believe that. They believe that this is about attrition. that you're on the losing side, and they are oppressing you, and there's nothing you can do about it, and they're never going to get caught. They're never going to get called into account. And I'm saying that that's not the case. I'm saying that they will. And they are being manipulated, and they are being manipulated, and they are being bamboozled, they are being tricked, and they are being condemned by spiritual forces, by principalities and powers, and they're going to be judged. And you are going to have a voice, you are going to be vindicated, and that's what you need to hope for. And when you're processing this freaky stuff and all the things that you have to deal with as a targeted individual, if you throw that out and just look at it as if it is only the government or only just groups of people with technology or whatever, you're missing the point, and it doesn't really fit. And getting back to the point of feeling disconnected and experiencing the deprivation that a targeted individual has to deal with, how else are you going to process that information if you're not using biblical criteria, the spiritual explanation? Because, you don't want to become part of what's going on. A lot of people feel left out. They feel like they're the odd person out. They're just not good enough. And, they're losing, and everybody's going to get away with this stuff. Is that true? No, it's not. And you have to focus in on that reality. When you're experiencing the loneliness, that feeling of being disconnected, do you want to be part of that? I guarantee you don't. The party looks fun, but when it's over, it's going to be over. And you don't want to be part of that. And, it's easy to forget that. Right now, you might feel lonely. Right now, you might feel disconnected. Right now, things might not be going well for you. But, there is hope. And I've talked about that a lot before. It's not about these people necessarily being caught and brought to justice by the governing authorities of this world, even though that could happen. Okay, I do hope that happens. A lot of people are talking about Havana syndrome. There's a lot of stuff going on. That would be great, but it doesn't have to happen, because eventually you will be vindicated. And, like I said, if you process that information correctly, even if you feel isolated right now, even if you feel that you're being treated unfairly, and you are, it's going to come around. And these people will be dealt with. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe.